Hey folks, it's Finn. Folks, this week I would like to talk with you about something really serious and incredibly important. The government has issued a consultation with proposals on changing the Gender Recognition Act. Now for us trans folk, this is a really huge deal. It's so incredibly important and we have until this Friday, the 19th, to get our views in. And the reason I'm making a vlog about it now is because the amount of opposition and hate that's being targeted towards us trans folk in response to this is nothing short of shocking and terrifying. And I need to talk about it and ask for your help to fill in this consultation form and share this vlog so that people realise how important this is. The main issue here is about specifically self-identification, and that's where we want to move to. Currently, the system is having lived as your gender, your required gender, for 2 years, you can then apply to have a gender recognition certificate that changes your gender on your birth certificate. This is no easy process. You have to live in your required gender for 2 years. During that time, you have to accumulate lots of evidence, official forms, housing, work, medical, all of these things, all these letters. When you've got a big pile of letters, at 2 years, you then send that to a panel of people that have never met you before. You pay them £140 and they get to decide if you're male enough or female enough. And then, if they're happy, you get a gender recognition certificate. Well, thanks. Now, I have been compiling a folder of all of my evidence, but I have been resistant to send it off. And that's because it feels incredibly humiliating and devaluing to live and become comfortable in who I am as a man and then have to go through this awful dysphoria-inducing thing of having a panel of strangers decide that I'm male enough for them to give me their stamp of approval. Yes, you're male enough. Thank you for your 140 quid. No. So it's really pleasing to see that the government are now asking for views on how this can be changed for the better. And what we as trans folk are saying is that let us self-identify. Let us, after coming out, knowing we're definitely on the right track, we're transitioning into who we're meant to be, then we can simply self-declare that we are male, female or non-binary, because currently under the new system there is no provision for non-binary people. We say with self-identification you can then self-identify as the gender that you identify with. Did that make sense? Now, there has been a huge amount of misinformation and hatred spread by certain groups who I will not even do justice to by mentioning their names. You are not worth the airtime. It's all fear-mongering stuff that by allowing us to self-identify, we are then going to infiltrate places, and particularly women this is targeted at, that trans women will be going into women-only spaces and then those women in those groups will no longer be safe, which is just daft. We as trans folk have been accessing spaces that correspond with our gender for years. This is nothing new. This has nothing to do with accessing spaces. And to think that as trans folk we're just going to change our gender marker so that we can do people harm is just a really hurtful argument. And more than anything, just frankly ridiculous. So this is why I'm making this vlog, because it is really important, and it's actually even more important than a simple birth certificate change. This reform is much deeper than that, because by the government asking for our opinion and then hopefully removing the gender recognition process and change it into self-identification sends a real clear message of support for us, of telling us that we are valid, that we are real, and we need that. And that's actually the bigger picture here. Yes, it will be great to be able to self-identify, but the message of trans people being valid and respected and supported will send a big message to society, and in doing so will help improve the lives of trans people beyond just being able to self-identify, but in feeling good about ourselves, because trans people's mental health and rates of suicide are huge. And that's not because of being transgender, that's because of the hatred, the prejudice, the difficulties we face in society because of misguided views about what trans people are. I particularly worry about our young people at this time because at the moment, imagine if you are a young trans person coming out and all over the media you are seeing your identity being debated, and not only debated but also compared to that of paedophiles and sex offenders. And that's what trans people are being talked about as equivalent to, that somehow our gender is dangerous, that as soon as we're allowed to self-identify we're going to be these predators in society. How damaging is that for anybody? But at least as adults we can reason with that and debate against it. But young people just coming out at their most vulnerable are seeing these messages all over the news at the moment. These people, who again I will not name and give any airtime to, they are spending money to place full page ads in mainstream papers spouting bigotry and hatred, especially towards trans women. They are sticking stickers all over cities with misinformation about what self-identification means. This is nothing short of persecution that's going on here, and it's shocking. It really is appalling that this is even being allowed to happen. Making this vlog, I'm probably going to put myself right in the line of fire from them, but do you know what? I don't care, because I'm standing up for people that are the most vulnerable in this society at the moment. I am becoming afraid now, you know, because we kind of felt like we were getting somewhere with trans rights and trans acceptance, and now to have all of these awful things said about us and have us equated to sexual predators is just terrifying. Really, really is. So yes, I'm making this vlog just to ask, please, to have a look at this consultation. Stonewall have amazingly made a very, very simple version of it. I'll put the links to both of it at the bottom. I'll put a link to the full explanation of the reform and the full form that you can fill in. And I'll also put a link to the simplified form as well that Stonewall have helped by explaining all the questions and sample answers and things like that to make it easier for us to respond to. And this is for trans folk, this is for trans allies. I ask anybody to share it. Even if you know nothing of trans people, I ask you to read this and get on the right side of history, because like with civil rights movements before this that we now look back on, absolutely appalled that this could happen, I think this is what will happen with trans things in years to come. We'll look back on this time and we'll wonder how on earth people could get away with doing things like big spreads in newspapers spouting hate, and how they could be allowed to target a vulnerable minority group in such a hateful and misinformed way. So yes, please read it, please fill it in, please share it, please help others to fill it in. If any of the questions confuse you, you can always drop me a message, or if you go onto Twitter and if you search the hashtag come out for trans equality, or even just hashtag trans, gender reform, you'll get everything come up. Put your questions on there. I know people will always be really happy to answer. I certainly will, because we really do need everybody to come together to protect trans people, and especially vulnerable young trans people, to make sure they've got a world they can grow up in where they are respected, understood and safe. Please do share this video, spread the message, reach out to your friends and family, ask them to fill it in, help them to fill it in, let people know what this is about and why it's important and why it's far more than a birth certificate change. This is an improvement of trans lives everywhere. Thanks for watching, everybody. Look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe, and if this is the first time watching my vlogs, please do hit that subscribe button so you can be kept up to date with all the regular Finnstalments. See you next week.